Welcome to Reclaiming Me, a trauma-informed podcast helping women with complex PTSD heal the lasting impact of childhood attachment wounds from parents and caregivers, so you can finally release people-pleasing and perfectionism and learn to trust in relationships, beginning with the one you have with yourself. I'm your host, Cindy Payne, therapist, trauma specialist, and a woman who has walked this path both personally and professionally.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm so happy that you joined me on this midweek reframe because today we're going to be practicing the pause. So it's not going to be a push. If you're listening while doing something else right now, that's okay. And if you're resting, that's okay too, because this episode is about noticing where your energy is going and not fixing it. So if you listened to the main episode on Monday, you heard why so many women with complex trauma feel so tired all the time. We talked about how adaptation and emotional labor and constant alertness drain our energy. So if you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to that, that was episode 90. And today we're going to be working with just one gentle question from that episode. And that is, what can I release today? And when I ask that question, I don't mean everything, okay? Not everything, not forever, just today. And so I invite you to notice how your body responds initially when you hear that question. What can I release today? Perhaps for some of you, you get really tense because you're expecting to have to know what that is, or how do I do this, or what if I can't do this? And that's okay, right? And then for some of us, it might be a relief, like, oh, I get to release something today. But whether you view this as positive or negative is not the point, right? It's the noticing that's the first step. And so I really want to take some time to reframe what it means to release. Because I'll be honest, when people would tell me, just let it go, just stop worrying about it. Like, thanks, Captain Obvious. That's not helpful at all, right? Just release it. It's like, okay, I would really love to, but I don't really even understand what that means. And I don't know how. And so a good reframe on release is perhaps to just name that release does not mean quitting something or checking out altogether. Okay. It doesn't mean letting things just fall apart in front of you. And it certainly doesn't mean having perfect boundaries, because that's not the intention. And that's quite literally impossible. It means allowing something to take less effort than it normally does. So we're working with effort, okay? And this could look like letting a small task at work unfold at someone else's pace. Or maybe waiting to respond rather than jumping in immediately. And this could go for in-person conversations or text or email. And for a lot of my clients, this is a really great experiment and way to start, because if you are a complex trauma survivor, we have, chances are, been conditioned to be on and to be responsive and be the good girl and, the A plus for effort. And so asking you to wait to respond could feel really challenging, right? And so you get to decide how long that might be for you. So if your normal response time is within the half hour, what would it feel like to pause for an hour? Or maybe even noticing the impulse to smooth over tension and just step back slightly. So think about areas and relationships in your life where you are the fixer. And again, this is automatic. You don't have to think about it. So see if you can notice next time that tension comes up, right? And instead of jumping in, give somebody else the opportunity to sit in that tension so that you don't have to work so hard. So releasing is really more about how you do things, not whether you do them or not. Okay. Notice what comes up when you imagine letting even one small thing go. Curiosity matters more than action here. And I want to share an example of my overfunctioning and exhaustion patterns. So at work, I used to overfunction constantly. And this is when I worked on a team of educators. So I would jump ahead, I would anticipate problems, I would smooth transitions over, and I would make sure nothing got dropped. And I did this both as a teacher and a school counselor. And for those of you maybe who are educators or you know educators, we get praised for this. We get team leadership positions for this. We get hired as admin for things like this because we're really efficient. And on the outside, it does look like efficiency. But on the inside, it can feel like constant pressure. And by the end of the day, most days, I can tell you I was completely spent. I'm talking depleted, where I would come home and all I would have the capacity to do is stare at the wall. And if somebody asked me what was for dinner or what did I want to watch on TV, I just looked at them like they had three heads because I was exhausted. And eventually the resentment crept in. Resentment that I was carrying so much. Resentment that others didn't notice or match my effort. And resentment towards myself for feeling trapped in a pattern that I did not know how to change. And when I began asking, what can I release today? I didn't overhaul everything. I picked one place. I didn't respond immediately. I let a task move at someone else's pace. And I stopped filling in the gaps before they existed. And at first, I got to tell you, this was highly uncomfortable. My body was not used to letting things go. Sometimes things were slower or messier. Sometimes nothing bad happened at all. But a lot of times I felt like I was going to get in trouble if I dropped it from my to-dos. But I had to stick with it because what shifted over time wasn't perfection. It was energy. My baseline tension softened. My resentment began to decrease. Release didn't make me less capable. It made my effort more sustainable. And the embedded takeaway here is that even small releases changes how your energy moves. So notice where that happens in your own life. Another example of releasing for me is in the area of home life and my personal relationships. For me in my home relationship life, that's where my work will continue. Because at home, I carried emotional labor in a similar way. So I would anticipate the moods of my family members. I would be there to soften any tension. I was the schedule manager and I was the hall monitor. And I monitored how everybody was feeling, often without being asked. And I can remember this one evening after like a really long day, I noticed that my shoulders were so tight and my chest was so heavy and my energy was just zapped. And I realized I could practice release here too. So I chose a really small moment. It was between my boys. They're all really close in age. And so while they're extremely close, they are still 22 months apart and they bicker, right? Like siblings bicker. And when this happened and started up, I really wanted to protect one of them and tell everybody this isn't how we were going to treat each other and da 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 da, right? But I didn't step in to fix a minor conflict because I felt like I could assess it and it was minor and nobody was going to get hurt. And I let somebody else handle a small decision. I let one of my boys advocate for his own needs. And it didn't all settle beautifully like I would envision it as a therapist, right? But I just let the imperfection exist because my boys needed to find their own ways of advocating for themselves too. And if I was stepping in to smooth it over, I was robbing them of that experience. But I have to be honest, the discomfort appeared and I worried that something was going to blow up. But I waited and I waited and it didn't. And over a few days, just repeating these small releases, I began to notice that my energy would return, my baseline tension would soften, and a little more space in my body was there to be present rather than over carrying. And so the takeaway here is that release doesn't require collapse in relationships or tasks. Release recalibrates energy and restores space for presence. So I'm going to invite you to do a short grounding pause with me. And it's just going to require you to pause for a moment. So take a gentle, slightly deeper breath and release it. And notice where effort is already happening in your body. So is it the shoulders, the jaw, the chest? Remember, you're not changing anything. You're just noticing the tension and the places that you might practice these small releases. And that noticing is the work. So as you move through the rest of this week, I invite you to notice one place at work, at home, or in relationships where you tend to overfunction. And ask yourself, where can I release just a little today? Not all of it, not forever, just enough to see what happens. And please pay attention to discomfort because that's your body learning a new rhythm. Each small release builds the capacity for rest and recovery and energy that you can actually feel. So please, as we close, keep this question with you. What can I release today? Even noticing the impulse to overmanage is enough. Even letting one small thing go is enough. And we'll keep exploring this on the podcast, noticing our overfunctioning, releasing emotional labor safely, and learning to trust your body and others in this process. Until next time, let one thing be lighter than it was today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you leave feeling a little lighter, a little more grounded, and a little closer to trusting yourself and your inner experience. If this episode resonated with you, please follow or subscribe so future conversations can meet you when they're needed. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, consider sharing this episode with them. That's one of the ways this work reaches the people who need it the most. You can find me on Instagram at Cindy Payne Rooted, and you can also visit me at cindypayne.com, where you'll find all episode links, blog posts, practice updates, and a free people-pleasing style quiz designed to help you notice your patterns with more compassion. And remember, every small step towards healing, self-trust, and presence matters. You are worthy of this journey. Thanks, everyone.